Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Martin Couturier with Saige Consulting, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Sarah Hoffman from AlphaSense. Hi, Sarah.
Hey.
So as I said, I'm Martin Couturier from Saige. I am a director of AI innovation. I work both with clients and internally with my development team to look for ways that we can incorporate modern AI tooling into day-to-day business processes. The ultimate goal is we want to drive efficiencies and make everybody better at their jobs. Sarah, do you mind spending a few moments just introducing yourself?
My role is about helping customers understand the value of generative AI. I've been leading AI efforts for more than a decade. I was leading AI research for Fidelity Investments Innovation Department. And before that, I was heading up FactSet's machine learning team. So I've been working in AI well before it was cool.
You're here to talk about AI. There's a lot of fun things happening in AI today. Everybody is talking about it. And notably, what we're talking about a lot of is generative AI. So, without further ado, could you just kind of jump right into the weeds with us and talk to us a bit about generative AI? And, in your opinion, what differentiates it from earlier AI models? How is it redefining the possibilities of artificial intelligence today?
Sure. So AI has always been able to make us more efficient. That's one of the reasons that I've loved using AI even before it was cool. I felt like it was really able to enhance our work and our lives in many ways. But what's interesting about generative AI is that because it's generating things, creating text, creating images, creating videos, all of a sudden, in addition to making us more efficient, I use it all the time to edit drafts that I write or make sure that, there's, help me figure out if this is a good way to phrase something. But in addition to that, there's also this element of creativity now, in addition to efficiency, and even more so than creativity, like just, I guess, strategy. So, for example, I'll use the technology now to ask questions and then ask follow-up questions. And how do you think the U.S. election might impact AI? And then I can have a whole discussion. Or if I'm researching a topic like healthcare, I've asked it once. I asked ChatGPT, I was working at Fidelity then, and I said, here's an outline for a report I wrote on healthcare. Is there anything I'm missing? And ChatGPT told me to also include mental health and how generative AI were changing changing the mental health landscape. So there's this whole other element. People can use it as investors to say, is there a risk I'm not considering when I'm looking at changing this investment strategy? So in addition to making us more efficient, this technology can also help us become more creative and also help us with more strategic elements of our work.
Awesome. I have to agree. I use ChatGPT pretty much all day, every day these days, whether it's for strategy or review or just general research. It's so fast and easy to get to that I think has totally changed the way that I've worked. Now, as you mentioned, it's this creativity component. We're creating new things. It's not just fact checking and predictions anymore. With that comes this concern of hallucinations. And, like on one hand, you could say humans have been hallucinating all along. We have this creative genius. Hallucinations are part of that, new ideas, new concepts. In the context of generative AI, can you describe what hallucinations are? And, should we be concerned? How can we be working around the hallucinations? And, effectively, how do we manage any risks in a production setting?
Sure. So one of the I guess biggest challenges with generative AI, I mean, I would say it's the fact that it hallucinates, it can make things up. It's also that it doesn't always give you the same answer, which is very different than any other technology we've ever worked with in the past. When you run it again, you get something else. But what's interesting, though, about the fact that it does hallucinate, make up information, or even sometimes have some misleading information, it's I guess the good news is that each version of the technology, you do see in general fewer and fewer hallucinations. Like I remember using like GPT-3, the previous version before ChatGPT. That's actually what got me really, really excited about this technology. But it hallucinated a lot. Like I would get these like random things from it, but I could still see the power of the technology. And the good news is that each version after it was much better. Um, But there are ways to also use this technology. I would say, I guess I'll talk about it in two sides. On the one hand, businesses could really eliminate hallucinations, or I would not completely, but reduce the hallucinations. One thing we do at AlphaSense, and many other companies are doing this with their generative AI systems, is this RAG, retrieval augmented generation approach, where we say, use our trusted content to answer these questions. At AlphaSense, we have so much business content, news, regulatory documents, company documents, expert calls. And when we know that the answer is coming from one of these documents instead of some random person's blog on the webpage, that also really could make sure that this is an answer you can trust a lot more likely than just using something that's more generic. The other thing that companies, including AlphaSense, are doing is saying, we're going to link back exactly to where we found this answer in the document, so that also reduces hallucinations a lot, because we're making sure every line that we say we can cite a source. And if it does make something up, it's very easy for the user, or misunderstand something. It's very easy for the user to go and say, oh, I see where this is coming from. Here's what it actually was supposed to be. And especially when you're using this technology for something like making multi-million dollar investment decisions, you don't necessarily want a technology that's going to hallucinate, and you don't know if you could trust it. You really need to know that you can trust this answer. The other thing, though, that I did want to share is, like, for my role, I've been an AI researcher for a while. Sometimes I don't mind if a technology hallucinates. So if I'm using ChatGPT and I'm saying, what's going to happen with AI in the next 5 years, even if it made something up that was kind of wild, like, that could help me think differently about what I'm thinking in terms of AI. And so, as long as I know not to trust it, and I know that this technology could make something up, it's not necessarily a bad thing if it does make something up. When I'm more brainstorming and trying to think about what might happen in the future, I like to say it's not a bug, it's a feature of how this technology works. But definitely, it really depends on your use case. Making an investment decision in a company is very different than saying what might happen in the world in 10 years.
Yeah, totally. And I think, when we spoke earlier about the strategy component, it's that forward thinking. You might not have done all your research yet, but you're just trying to pick a direction. And so, get something out quickly, sure, you can always follow up, do some diligence, fact check, as you called out, force it to anchor on context. Like, those are all great tools. But I agree, just to get something out quickly, that's there's not too much concern up front. So moving on, generative AI, it's not the end. It's here today. There's obviously going to be more development. How do you think that companies should be preparing for future advancements of AI? Are there things that they can do, internally to set up their business, or tools they should be integrating or adopting? Like, what is really going to position a company to benefit from the tools we have today and the ones that are going to come out in the future?
Sure. From the company side, I really think part of it is really about letting employees use the technologies, but training them on the right way to use the technology. And, like, the training really needs to include real life use cases. Like, you could easily find examples of, like, lawyers who've used the technology and not realizing it's going to make up citations, and showcase those examples. And this is how you should not use this technology, just by trusting it blindly. And also, here are some good ways to use this technology and how it has saved people time and made them more efficient. And I think you really need that kind of training. And people don't always understand the limitations of technologies they use. So I was talking earlier about GPT-3, but even the first version of ChatGPT, I remember when it came out, and I was talking to somebody, and they told me they just changed their investment strategies to invest in something because ChatGPT told them to do it. And to me, I was like, this is 2 years out to date. Like, at that point, like, the models were updated. I think it was like a 2-year-old model. And the person who did this had no idea that it wasn't real-time information. And even today, these models are, too expensive to update real time. And at least today, we could also combine it with search engine technology, and we found ways to get real-time information. But at that point, it wasn't there. And people just didn't know. And I think part of that is really just there was no training. Everybody just started using a technology, having no idea what the limitations were of the technology. And so we do really need training. I would also add, though, from the individual side, employee side, you do need to have employees using this technology. And I would encourage people even to use it for personal projects, whether it's I've used it. I had somebody coming up over with an allergy, and I asked, please change this recipe to something that they can eat without getting hurt. And people have used it for planning itineraries and vacations. I think that just using it for personal projects sometimes makes you realize as you're working on a project at work for business purposes, oh, this would be great over here to help me, or this would totally not be useful. But in either case, really becoming familiar with the technology is so important in order to be able to reimagine your own job because I guess most of us are knowledge workers and really this type of technology will be transformative in our roles.
Well, Sarah, this has been really fun. I want to thank you, Sarah, for joining me today. And to anyone listening, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.